Thank you for Patreon now for donating to the Patreon.
Hey guys, videos back with Cafe Vanguard deck profile. So if you enjoyed, don't forget to comment, subscribe, and story. This time we're covering DZ Set 1, the first Divine Skills deck, Dragon Empire Varga Dragres. So all around, this deck is very interesting. It is a very power heavy deck. It is beat the opponent to death with a big number, well, not necessarily big numbers, beat the opponent to death with multiple attacks and restand the Vanguard twice, 3 Vanguard attacks, 2, I think all 3 of which is in like the high 30s or 40s, and get a bunch of drive checks. And in Premium, it does the exact same thing, but we're going to focus on the D deck right now. So let's go get started, and hope you guys enjoy, because all around this deck is very fun to play, and I just can't wait to show it off. First up, we have our normal energy generator. So energy generator, you may have one with ride deck crest in your ride deck. It's a ride deck crest, you can already tell. Auto ride deck, when you ride, you can put this card into your crest zone. Then if you want a second, you get to energy charge 3 on top of it. This deck doesn't really take up energy that much, so you don't really need to remember that energy charge 3, but I mean, hey, you know what, the free energy charge 3 is energy charge 3, you can have a total of 10 energies, and then auto at the beginning of your ride phase, energy charge 3, and then act once per turn, energy blast 7 to draw a card. Again, this deck does not use it that much energy, so most of the time you're going to use it to get a free draw, but if you do need to use up that energy for other cards, you can definitely afford to do so, because again, it doesn't really use up that much energy. So all around, it's a nice card to have, free draws, free just like charge up and an extra resource to fall back on, worst case scenario. Just a good thing to have. I move on to our deck. First up, we have our starter in a Heated Blade, our Dart. So grade 0 boost, 5k shields, 6k base, auto, and road pine for a second draw card. Standard starter. None that's special about it. None of the ride line really requires it. You can run any starter you want, but because he happens to fit the theme of badass warrior dragons, and also because he is the canonical starter to Varga Dragres, might as well run him as our starter, so one of our Dart. Then move on to our main deck. We'll get back to the ride deck later. First up, we have one copy of our Overtrigger, and that is Dragon Deity, King of Resurgence, Drag Veda, grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k power. Overtrigger in your deck, or in vote as a trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose one of your units, it gets +1 for the turn, and if you vote it during draw check, activate its additional effect, which you get to choose one of your Vanguards and stand it. So no matter if you drive check this or damage check it, you're getting a million and a drop. But then if you drove check this, your Vanguard, who already has a guaranteed 2 attacks, most possibly 3 during a very specific point in the game, can now possibly get 4 attacks in a turn, and if pulled on the right drive check, can get you an extra 2, if not 4 drives in total. If you future proofed and you got really effing lucky. So Drag Veda all around is an amazing over. It definitely adds the extra pressure that the Vanguard could want. If you want to run Volna, because at least in D, Veda does not add that much pressure to Varga Dragres' attack. In Premium, it sure as hell does. But in D, you might want to maybe run the Volna, who could stand your rear guards that get more power. But I do like to run the nation-specific over, so for me, this would be Drag Veda. And it is still worth using. You just either got to be smart or get really lucky with it to pull it off successfully and get more drive checks out of it. Still a good card though. Then move on to our normal triggers. So with a restanding deck that can at least do 2 Vanguard attacks a turn, possibly 3, you obviously want to run as many crits as possible, so we run a total of 7 crits. 3 copies of Wicked Beast Suna Gosuri, grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k power. You can really make this any critical you want, it just has to be a vanilla crit. I just chose this one because A, moon in the background, B, rain, 3, cute cat. That's all of the reasons I need. Also came out around the same time as Dragres. Then we have our 4 effect crits in Burning Flail Dragon, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k power. Critical trigger, auto rear guard, then battle boosted. Put the unit to soul, choose one of your views, it gets 2k for the turn. None of the deck uses soul. It literally doesn't. So you don't have to run this unless like you put in a tech that uses soul. But I mean, hey, if you want to use it because just in case, go ahead. But I'm gonna tell you this right now, nothing in this deck soul blast. So 7 crits, very nice for pressure with restanding. Then we have 4 copies of Flare Veil, Dragon grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 4k base, continues sentinel, or sorry, not continues sentinel, wrong card, continues guard circle. If your opponent's Vanguard's a grade 3 or greater, it gets plus 5k shields. It's a 10k shield, it's very nice to have. It's a draw trigger, so it helps increase the hand, and that is very helpful considering you don't necessarily discard, you are constantly possibly calling a board to refill your the presence that you lost via Varga's first restand. So Flare Veil definitely helps for that, especially in terms of guarding as well. And I mean, you're not really going to lose much from losing an extra crit, but if you really think you're going to need the 8th crit, go ahead and have it. But I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to lose or gain that much more out of it. So for Flare Veil, it's just nice to have the guarding power and extra hand cards if worse comes to worse. And we have 4 copies of our heal trigger, and I knew I forgot to change something. Oh wait, no, this is the right thing's name. Gentle Breeze, Dragon, Dino Breeze. So grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 5k power. It's a standard non-effect heal. You can really use any heal you want. I just prefer the non-effect heals over the counter heals because I'd rather have a consistent 15k over fluctuating 10 to 25. But hey, if you want to run the counter heals, go ahead. But I do prefer the no-effect heals just for me personally. Then move on to our grade 1s. 4 copies of this card that was supposed to be a placeholder until something better got revealed. And I'm gonna go ahead and make the executive decision that I'm actually gonna keep this because Stealth Dragon Kure Musubi has been really useful in the matches he shows up in. So grade 1 boost 5 Kishore base auto when discarded from the hand during your ride phase, you may call this card to your rear guard circle as rest. So it ideally will show up in your hand on turn 0, and then you basically your opening hand, and then you ditch it, and then you start building up your board presence because when you have 2 to 3 Vanguard attacks a turn, you want to push your opponent to 4 as fast as possible so you can do the 3 Vanguard attacks as fast as possible. But then on top of that, you want to early game rush your opponent to either shut down their rear guards or deal them more damage. So again, early as possible 3 Vanguard attacks. Some people are in a disagreement against running a card that only procs off during the ride phase and will become completely useless past your grade 3 turn. You have to remember, past that point, it is now PG fodder, any form of discard fodder, and worst case scenario, an AK on board. So, you know, this thing inherently, its skill is not amazing past a certain point, but it immediately becomes fodder for everything in your deck that would need it to be fodder. So, for Kure Musubi, it's just a really good card, and honestly, I'm not against it. And we have 4 copies of Battle Monk of Raging Flames Kofu, grade 1 boost 5k shield, AK base, continues rear guard to guard circle. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard Varga in its card name, this unit will get plus 5,000 power and 5,000 shield after one of his turns. So cool, 13k base and 10k shield is pretty nice. So, you know, if you're going really aggro on the game because maybe you didn't see any of your triggers and you're running low on hand cards, you can use it to defend yourself. Or if you just need to quickly rush down your opponent because you keep killing your good front row units, you can just swing at the Vanguard with a 13k or boost it for 21. Honestly, Kofu is just good in any situation for Dragres, or Dragres. So, you know, 4 of it is just all grade 1. And again, this is a tech option. You can get rid of it if you want to. But I'm telling you right now, in the matches this thing does throw open, it is very useful, especially when you get to proc off its skill, even just once. And move on to our other grade 1. We have 4 copies of Impale Horn Dragon. So grade 1 boost 5k shield, AK base. This is such a cool looking card with the most unnecessary skill for a deck that in my opinion doesn't need it. If we gave this thing the skill to restrict sentinels or force sentinels or countercharge or anything of the sorts, like for some reason Raziel gets a countercharger, even though the only 2 cards in the actual Raziel deck alone that counterblast are Nobia and Raziel himself, and if you choose to, if you play your deck smartly, you will not run into a CB problem at all with those 2. But of course, the deck that actually needs CB and we don't get a countercharger for it. Anyways, Impale Horn Dragon, grade 0 boost 5k shield, AK base, continues rear guard circle during battle that it boosted. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard Varga in its card name, it gets plus 5,000 power. And then auto rear guard when this unit boosted grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Varga in its card name, it gets another 2k for that battle. And at the end of that battle, Soul Boss will retire this unit to draw a card. So guaranteed, no matter what it's boosting, as long as your Vanguard's Varga, it's a 13k booster, which is cool. But then if it's boosting specifically the Varga Vanguard, it's a 15k booster and can possibly knit to a draw. I stand corrected, by the way. This card is the only card in the deck that does use Soul. If you can't tell, I completely forgot that it used Soul because I have never once used that ability, because I have never once called it behind Vanguard, because I have never once needed to call it behind Vanguard, because my board is full thanks to Kure Musubi. Again, when he shows up, very useful. But Impale Horn, it's not a bad grade 1. It's good for pressure. I just wish we got a countercharger, because clearly Bushi gave Raziel a countercharger, but they don't effing need it, because guess what? I have yet to use Aerial Sage's skill too. And guess what? That deck does not have a CB problem, and that deck runs more CB users than just Nobia and Raziel. I'm just making a point. We could have gotten a countercharger heal, but she didn't give us it. I don't know why, but 4 of Impale, I guess. Then move on to our PG, 4 copies of, I don't even know why that looks weird to me, Guardian Monk of Raging Flames Molju. Is it because it has, oh, it just doesn't have the thing down here. That's why it looks weird to me. And there's good on boost is 0 shows, okay, base, continue Sentinel. You may have to have only 4 Sentinels in your deck, and also when playing guard circle, choose one of your units. It cannot be hit on battle. If your hand has 2 or more cards in it, choose a card from your hand's card. A standard PG, nothing too special about it. Basically means if this and only one other card is in your hand when you place it on guard circle, you don't have to discard one, which is great, because that means you can be as aggressive as you want in the early game. And again, you want to push your opponent to 4 damage as fast as possible, so especially if they went first, so that when you get to grade 3, you can drag rest them, because drag rest divine skill requires them to be at 4 or more damage. So you want to press them as fast as possible, so then when your opponent counterattacks you, you can just throw this down, not have to discard anything, and you're safe. All around, Moju is a very good PG. You can run this, you can run Twin Buckler, you can run Plasma Catapult, or Sparkle Rejector, I think its name is. They're all the same exact card in terms of skill, but I just picked Moju because it comes out at the same time as Dragres does, so 4 of Moju. Then we have our last grade 1, one of in the ride deck, none in the main deck, of Blazembar Dragon. Blazembar Dragon. I now realize that that's the word Ember combined with Blaze. Huh. I wonder how you say that. Anyways, grade 1 boost 5k shield, aka base. Auto when rode upon by Boulder Axe Dragon. Calls card to rear guard circle and soul charge 1. So if you were worried about you losing soul from calling this thing to rear guard, you just replace it anyway. So there you go, you impale horn spammers. And then it continues rear guard circle during your turn. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard Varga in his card name, gets with 2k power. So 10k. All around, pretty solid. Again, it does help in the early game. If you're the one that going first, you get to call. This also works a lot better if you go first as well, because again, more pressure, because their opponent will be at grade 1 when you get to stand this. But you know, when you ride, you call this to rear guard, you attack the vanguard. And, you know, worst case scenario, like say, for example, you're me when I play this deck for the first time and you don't see any of your ace pieces because your entire hand is triggers, you can move Blazembar to the front row when you're on Varga, 10k swing. If the opponent's at grade 2, cool, you can still hit face and you still have retired targets for vanguard and you still get multi-attack consistently. All around, Blazembar Dragon is a very good grade 1. He's not amazing, but he does warrant the spot in the ride deck because, again, free call and he does replace himself and he's a 10k worst case scenario, so one of in the ride deck, not in the main deck. And move on to our grade 2s. We're on 4 copies of our Psycho grade 2, simply because, again, the deck does not use any form of energy outside of him and one other card, and that is Dragres Farhot. So grade 2 and a set 5k shield, 10k base. Auto when it's placed. When this unit is put on a guard struck from your hand or discarded from your hand while riding from the ride deck, like Current Blasting 1 and Energy Blasting 3, you get to draw a card. Or Energy Blasting 3, not and Energy Blasting 3. All around pretty solid. So in the off chance that you do not have a CB problem at the moment, and you can afford to drop a CB, you can use it to draw a card. Or you just pay, you be smart and you just pay the 3 energy that you're not going to use otherwise, and then get a draw out of it. All around pretty solid, replace itself on discard, and I tell you what, that skill, not in this deck, but that skill that gets to proc on guard circle has actually saved me, because there was a game it drew me a PG. So yeah, that skill is actually really useful, and I'm really glad Bushy made it so that it works on guard circle as well. And then auto when placed on rear guard circle, if you persona roll this turn by Current Blasting 1 or Energy Blasting 3, choose a grade 1 card without Sentinel from your drop zone, call it to back or rear guard circle. So I don't know why they specified Sentinel. I don't know any part of Dragon Empire that would take advantage of that. But cool. 13k booster, 13k booster, slash 15k booster. Worst comes to worst, 8k booster. Like, all in all, it gets you more rear guards, and it could possibly get you more attacks. Farhot is just good. It's not amazing in my opinion, but you know what? If you have the ability to play him, even though the deck already has 2 really good front and rear guards that almost never leave the board, he'll definitely replace you if you need to. So for Farhot. Then move on to 4 copies of the only reason the deck has a CB problem. See, the weird thing is it's not even Dragres, because technically speaking, unless you use the Divine skill, Dragres only takes up 1 CB a turn, and even when you use the Divine skill, because it's a hard once per game, you're only going to use up 2 CB max a turn. But this thing makes it take up 3 CB a turn, or 2 CB a turn guaranteed, which puts you in a bad spot in terms of CB. Anyways, Dragres Ashura, grade 2 and set 5k shield, 10k base, auto rear guard, this unit attacks into anything. By Energy Blasting 2, this unit will get plus 5,000 power for that battle. The only other card in this deck outside of Farhot that actually Energy Blast, and I will tell you what, you will never need to use that skill unless you just want to get the extra 5k. And then choose up to one of your rear guards with a different card name from her, and then it will get auto when it's retired from your rear guard circle, put it to your hand until end of turn. That is not necessary. That has never once procced off for me, and if it did, it happened once and it was not necessary at all. But cool, can bounce back stuff that dies, so if you don't see the other very important card you want in your front row, whenever you're going to have to murder for Dragres' skill to get consistent attacks, at least it's going back to your hand. And then auto when it's retired from your rear guard circle by the ability of your grade 3 or greater Vanguard Varga in its card name. If your opponent's Vanguard's a grade 3 or greater, counter boss will want to call this card to rear guard circle, and it will get plus 10 power for that turn. So this swing, your other rear guard swings, Varga swings, kills front row, gets the 10k and the restand skill, sure, calls herself back, and then whether your opponent takes it or not, Vanguard stands if they're at 4 damage, swings, stand from Divine skill, you suddenly got 6 attacks. All around, sure is a very solid grade 2. She can protect your other rear guards and possibly loop combos if, say, for example, you protected Farhot. She can get numbers if you really need her to, and she allows for multi-attack more consistently. It's just that she costs a CB on top of that. Like, don't get me wrong, Shura's good, but the deck can survive without her. It just loses out on that extra little bit of offense, but she is a good grade 2, so obviously we want a 4 of her. Then we have our other grade 2 who makes us not necessarily need Shura, and that is 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the ride deck of Boulder Axe Dragon. So glad we have a reason to run a ride deck card in the main deck. Grade 2 and 5k shield, 10k base, auto and wrote upon by a grade 3 with Varga in his card name. You call this card to rear guard. Sorry, you have to call this card to rear guard. Then auto rear guard when this unit attacks into a vanguard. If you have a grade 3 or greater vanguard with Varga in his card name, it gets +1 power for that turn or for the battle. At the end of that battle, retire this unit to draw a card. The effect is mandatory. So downside is the second it swings, regardless of what it swings, well, if it swings into a vanguard, if it swings into a rear guard, it won't proc. But if it swings into a vanguard, regardless of what grade it is, if you have a grade 3 vanguard with Varga in his card name, it's going to immediately get the 5k and draw whether you like it or not. But on the bright side, it gets more numbers, so it's more likely to hit, so it's more likely to force out more guard power if you need it to. And it retires itself before Varga, who doesn't need to retire for his skill. It just, well, okay, his skill forces a retire, but it doesn't need to retire anything to go off, which means and it replaces itself by drawing a card. All around, Boulder Axe is pretty solid, and again, because it calls itself with Varga, worst case scenario, you can stall out using this for a turn, and instead get to force out a little bit more offense with your units, so you get to save back all of your strong ones like Shura and our really good grade 3 over here, which we'll get to in a second. So all around, Boulder Axe is a very good grade 2 for building up pressure and just setting up for your later turns, especially if you had to go first. So 3 of Boulder Axe in the main deck, 1 of in the ride deck, just a very good grade 2 I like to depend on. Then move on to our grade 3s. We're on 4 copies of Obscurity. That's not how you say that. Glaive Dragon. Grade 3 to 9%, 13k base. Continues from a rear guard circle during your turn. If you do not have another copy of this in the front row, again, it has to be in the front row, but if you have another copy in the back row, it will immediately nullify that. It will still proc the ability because it has to be in the front row for that effect to go off. So again, if you have 2 of them on the board, as long as one of them is in the back row, you're completely fine. This unit cannot be retired by card effects, and it will get plus 10,000 power. So automatically, it can't die from Dragres, and it's a 23k base. Perfect. And then continues rear guard. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard Varga in his card name, it gets boost. So put a copy of this behind another copy of itself, and automatically have a 36k column without Persona Rights. Cool. 4 of Glaive. It's just a very solid grade 3 that can't be killed. It's a good beat stick, and I've never been able to pull that off of having 2 of them in the same column or having 2 on board in general, but to be fair, you don't need it when you have 5 consistent attacks and this thing's a fucking 20k base. So 4 of Glaive, just a very solid grade 3. And moving on to our last card in the deck, 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the ride deck of, obviously, the ace card of the deck, who has a beautiful moon in the background and amazing wings and swords, and that is Faded 1 of the Unparalleled, Faded 1 of Unparalleled, Varga Dragres. Grade 3, Twin Drive, Persona Ride, 13k base. 2 skills, Auto Vanguard, circle once per turn. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, by counterblasting 1, you retire all of you and your opponent's front or rear guards, and this unit will get plus 10,000 power for that turn. Then, at the end of that battle, stand this unit, and it gets minus 2 drives for the turn. So, okay, here's the thing. You do have to play that ability the second it swings. If you are 100% confident you're going to drive check the over in that drive check, do not use that skill, because you will get 2 more drives out. Well, you get a total of 4 more drives out of it if you're using the Divine skill that turn. If you're not, you're getting 2 more drives out of it, which just adds a lot more pressure. So, if you're confident you're going to pull the over, and your over is Dragveda, do not use that skill going swing into it first. But if you're not confident, which most of the times you won't pull it anyways, then yeah, you might want to use that skill, because even if it doesn't give you drive checks, it makes the Vanguard to 23k. It wipes the front row, and if your front row is either of these 2 or a combination of the 2 or Boulder Axe as well, you're not losing nearly as much as they are, if anything at all. And yeah, so pressure, 23k base, and then Divine skill, Auto Vanguard circle. At the end about this unit attacked a grade 3 or greater unit, whether it was on Vanguard or rear guard. If your opponent's damage zone has 4 or more cards in it, and this unit has attacked 2 or more times this turn by any means, counterblast 1, stand this unit, and it gets plus 2 drives to end of turn. And Divine skill is going to be a total of once per fight among all your cards. And this is why I say that if you are 100% confident you are going to see the over in your first drive check, don't use this skill, because what you're going to want to do is, if you know you're going to pull the over, just swing, don't use the skill, see the over, restand the Vanguard, plus 1 million, doesn't matter. Obviously, you're going to give it to the Vanguard because it's going to attack more times. The Vanguard attacks again. It's attacked twice at the end of this battle if they meet the requirement. Counterblast 1, stand it, get 2 more drives, and because you've already sacked 6 cards, now you have 4 drives. You swing 1 more time. This time you use the skill, but you still have a total of 4 drives for this drive check, and then after this battle ends, you lose 2 drives and you stand the Vanguard, and if you're playing Premium, you combine this with Dauntless, and I tell you what, every single time that this has happened in Premium, granted only twice, it has gone off successfully. Actually, no, it happened 3 times. Okay, 3 times if we count the game where we just checked what would have happened if the deck did live to the next turn to actually see that play go off. So the 3 times that we have seen it play that combo, it has actively happened. But yeah, all around, it's a very solid card. Kills from our rear guards, gets extra numbers, sadly loses 2 drives on the second attack, but fair enough. And not to mention the fact that it can stand itself with the Divine Skill, get more drive checks, and all around add for more pressure. It's just a very solid grade 3. 3 Vanguard attacks is pressure enough as is, but if you do see the over and you get lucky of when you see the over and you're confident in it, oh, your opponent will hate you because they will not know how to deal with a lot of drive checks. Again, in D, it's a lot less consistent than it is in Premium, but still. So, 3 over the main deck, 1 over the red deck, it's just very nice to pressure down the opponent and watch them squirm under the power of the Unparalleled. So without further ado, I'm going to just want to hear. Hope you guys enjoyed. All around, this deck is fun to play. It's nice having your own rear guards and your opponent's rear guards basically die to the Vanguard swing, who then just keep standing and pressuring out. You have ways to call back more rear guards. You constantly have the back row to fall back on, which has a consistent set of 13k boosters. You have a really good tech option that casually just can call itself to board and rush them early. You have 3 different options for good front row murder targets, and then the Vanguard itself is just pressure on legs, and at some point they will have to let something through or die to it because 7 crits plus an over. So without further ado, I'm going to end this one here. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join follow Twitch, and I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to stand up your Vanguards.